So welcome back. Today we're gonna replace the fuel pump. Now, real good use, always have the shop manual, but also if you can find it, if you look online for the MTSC in Chrysler, you'll see everything's online. You can print out a PDF and a video, and you can see what the fuel system looks like, and we'll be going into the rest of this with the carburetor later on. But one step at a time, as you'll see the earlier video, we're going to resolve the problem first with the fuel pump, and then we're going to go look into the carburetor. Now, according to the fuel system, make certain the fuel lines are not blocked or obstructed. Also, you have to check for air leaks. So the first thing we're going to do under the car is tighten up all the fittings from the fuel tank on up. And we're going to use the fuel pump pressure gauge to check the capacity of the pump. Now, we're not going to go and change the filter bolt gasket. We're going to replace the pump. But this will be good. And because our car has a electric fuel pump in addition to mechanical, what we're going to do is we're going to put the fuel pump in, new fuel pump. We're going to put a fuel pressure regulator. We're going to put a fuel filter, then a fuel pressure regulator, and the fuel pressure gauge. And that way, the electric pump plus the manual pump will never exceed the maximum 6 psi that the carburetor needs. The first thing we're going to do is going to check all these connections. Here's a picture from the parts manual, starting at the gas tank all the way to the fuel pump and then to the carburetor. Okay, here we are. That's the fuel tank. Now, the manual recommends draining the fuel tank, and we'll do that in a follow-on video. But here, this is where the gas comes out of the tank. My car has electric fuel pump. There it is. There's one connection. There's another connection. There's a third connection. And we'll go forth. Now, to tighten this up, at the end you're going to need a 1/2 inch and a 9/16 inch. And I'm just going to go and tighten each one up. Use both wrenches and tighten.
It's destroyed.
Here's the fuel pump.
Fuel pump.
And we're going to
Did you take it out?
disconnect the fuel lines and the heat shield. Take it out, and it's 2 bolts. Should be fairly quick. 1/2 inch with an extension, or 2 extensions works to get at the bolts. I'm going to show you afterwards. So there are only, aside from the fuel lines, there's the bolt that holds it to the heat shield. There's a wire, there's a nut, a wing nut here, and there are 2 1/2 inch bolts that go into the block. So the easiest way is to take out the wing nut, unscrew the fuel lines, and then take it out. Here's the original fuel pump just taken out, and here's the new one, the replacement. Looks like this pin was loose. It was no longer pumping gas, or not efficiently. So we'll transfer over the brass components, and we'll install it and reconnect it, and then we'll test the fuel pressure. We'll take all the old brass fixtures off. Screws, you can see that there was sealant put on the thread locker on the screws. We'll clean those up, put fresh thread locker on, And this is for the heat shield. It's extra small. I think it's 5/16. Be careful not to lose the pieces. Using a little can for. One tip when taking this out is have some kind of pan or something to catch extra fuel that's coming out. Oops. There seems to be a gasket here too, so can't lose all these little pieces. Never find a replacement. And then this gas bowl opens up. That screen looks a little, the gasket's fine, but that screen has seen better days. Oh, that's how we're gonna put a new fuel pump in. Maybe rebuild this one day. It has a tag on it. I don't know if this is original or not. Looks to be a serial number. We'll keep it in case. So one thing I found, the old one, seems the old pump was disabled and the pin was removed, the connection was removed, which is why it wasn't working. But to transfer over, you need to transfer over the heat shield. You need to transfer over take out one of the bottom screws and transfer over it. Now I'm coating everything with this Permatex thread sealer, which is gasoline resistant. I'm coating the gasket, and we'll be putting this back on. I got fresh brass fittings, and I'm getting fresh automotive bolts. It seems also this one just had the lock nut instead of also the washer. So here it is, cleaned off. Multiple layers of gaskets. Take a peek inside. You can see the wear on the journal for the fuel pump. There was a little disconcerting part that when I took the fuel pump off, there was no lever to actuate it. And I was a little bit afraid that it was actually stuck in here. But as far as I can tell, it's not in here. And I guess if it's in, it might have fallen into the oil pan. Either way, that's to be dealt with when I have to take this oil pan off. Now we assemble and put it back on. Okay, we're ready to install. It's prepped. I moved over this heat shield clamp. This is a hard to find piece. That thread on the bottom is 1024 thread, and it strips very easily. You have to be extra careful, and you have to remove the old screw from the top. I put fresh brass connectors, 5/16 outer diameter. I put some Permatex high-tech gasket sealants on both sides. And I got new one and a quarter inch 5/16 grade 8 automotive screws, hex screws with a built-in washer, and I added a lock washer. And then coming out of it, we're gonna have a new fuel filter and a fuel regulator, which I've added because of the electric fuel pump, to make sure that we don't ever go over 6 psi. I'm gonna install that, and we'll fire it up, and we'll get much better results now. Fitting this is a bit of a pain. Easiest way is with your left hand, first getting to the right screw from underneath the front suspension. Then you kind of hear a click, and you can then maneuver it to fit the right one. Hear that? Here is the test, only on the mechanical. Seems to be working. No leaks. Looks like a success.